Hello, mis amores. Today, let's talk about divas.
Great gowns, beautiful gowns.
They're covered in Swarovski crystals, girl. I don't know.
Die kenne ich nicht.
What do I think of her?
Yes.
I don't think of her.
One day we have the American singer-songwriter Chapel Roan arguing with a paparazzi on the red carpet, and another one, and another one. The next day we have the South African singer Tyla having someone else carry her award that she has just won. For days after, we have nothing but media outlets and fans and haters alike talking about, or bashing even, their diva behavior. While at the same time we have so many other voices asking for a comeback of real divas in the music industry. So in this video I want to explore how the pop diva concept was developed in the music industry and how it evolved over time, or if it even did. I'm gonna highlight some key figures, their cultural significance, while also looking at the impact on both music and society in general. Just to then in the end answer the question also, if we still have true pop divas. Before we properly get into this video, here's a word of our sponsors. That's a joke, I don't have sponsors. Alright, before we get into the video, we gotta define what a diva is and where the term even comes from, which is something I love doing because it also has to do with linguistics, and that was one of my favorite disciplines at uni, so it was nice to go back to where it all began. But for you, I'm gonna try and keep it brief. Honestly, I never even thought about where that term could come from, because I think we all have our own sort of idea of, or even definition of what a diva is, and we think of similar adjectives, but our definition will always sort of differ in their connotation. So depending on who you ask, the word diva can be a compliment or criticism. Even if you just Google the term, it'll give you multiple definitions. We've got, most notably, a celebrated female opera singer, and then we've got a famous female singer of popular music, a pop diva, and then also a self-important person who is temperamental and difficult to please, typically used of a woman. However, in mainstream media nowadays, women described as divas are usually referred to as difficult, feisty, and demanding, for example. It hasn't always been such a derogatory and sexist term though. As an article by the Welsh National Opera, wow, that was easier to write than say, states, the word diva, or its associated term prima donna, can be sourced through the world of opera in 18th and 19th century Italy. In a period of huge inequality between men and women in society, at least on the stage of opera houses, the female voice and talent was revered and celebrated quite as much as the top tenors of the day. Prima donna, which is Italian for first lady, describes the principal female singer in an opera, so usually the soprano. And then since the late 17th century, it was used to refer to all leading women in an opera. By definition, the term diva comes from Italian derivation, from Latin, divus meaning goddess, fine lady, a highly distinguished female singer. Synonymous with prima donna, the Welsh National Opera continues that it emerged in the early 19th century when many leading sopranos became so famous and celebrated that they almost became goddess-like in the eyes of their adoring public. Divine singers. A diva would be highly respected and well remunerated. Basically, a diva's presence would take up the whole room while leaving everyone in awe and stunned by her talent, really. So the word diva meant a super duper talented leading woman, basically. Interestingly, diva also had a male equivalent, divo, referring then to the leading and most talented male voice in an opera. Unlike diva, it's never really been used outside of the opera world, and most notably, it also never changed its meaning into something derogatory like diva did. So one of the original true opera divas was Maria Callas, an American Greek soprano who was born in 1923 and died in 1977. Alison Smith writes, Callas performed and conducted herself professionally by all accounts and never allowed her acclaim to get in the way of the amazing job she was gifted to do. Indulged, yes, but she never used her position or status as a weapon or currency. The original divas were notorious for floating through airports with small dogs in their designer bags and carry on trysts with designers, shipping magnets, and the like. Over-the-top privilege, but earned. She was known for her fiery, very unapologetic temperament, stating, for instance, I will always be as difficult as necessary to achieve the best. Then over time, the first operatic term, diva, evolved or mutated into something less about ability and more about behavior. First, it evolved also to describe super famous and admired theater and film actors or stars in Italy, and eventually then just any performer in theater, film, or music. So while the terms initially acknowledged talent and fame, by the mid-20th century, both prima donna and diva had taken on more generalized and derogatory connotations, and would then refer to ambitious but demanding women in the business, in the show business. For this video, I read some essays I found in the book Diva, Feminism and Fierceness from Pop to Hip Hop that I can only recommend to anyone who's interested in the topic because that was a really nice read. Obviously, we were still talking about opera singers. And in their introduction to their book, they say, the figure of the singer diva became more prominent in the wider Western cultural landscape in the late 1990s, as affecting an entry into the mainstream and then positioned as central to, or indeed the zenith of, and in turn transformative to pop cultures. The VH1 Diva series was a particular marker in this, and the first Divas concert on April 14th of 1998 curated a lineup that mixed long-established divas like Aretha Franklin and Carole King with a relatively recently established like Gloria Estefan, Mariah Carey, Celine Dion, Shania Twain. The setting was plush, orchestra and conductor, choreographed entrances, and award ceremony-like lighting. Just like a diva deserves, right? So a diva, again, is seen as something like very admirable. What does all of that tell us about the characteristics of a diva? When I wanted to summarize some of the characteristics, I also thought of just Googling characteristics of a diva. And like one of the first things that popped up was this really interesting page with a story from 2011 called 16 Signs That You're a Diva, with signs ranging from number 13, the background picture on your phone is of yourself. Number 6, you always look over to the person next to you and see if you're ahead of her. Number 11, you frequently arrive fashionably late. And I don't know, I just thought, oh wow, this story alone catapulted us back like centuries again. And I was so disappointed to then find out that it was written by a woman. I know it's just meant to be like fun, and it's also from 2011, which is like almost 15 years ago. It was probably meant to just be like a lighthearted thing, but I just can't disregard how anti-feminist and like misogynistic it really is. And it was just really interesting in my study of divas that this was like one of the first things that popped up, already telling us about the negative connotations of the word diva. I'm so not academic saying negative and positive, because I learned that you always have to specify what negative and positive meant. But I think you know. I think you know. The result of that site was, if you said yes to 11 to 15, for example, you're a certified diva. You love to be the center of attention and you always want to look your best. You want to be better than everyone around you, and you tell that to yourself in your head. Your peers get annoyed with you frequently and cannot handle you more than one day. However, you can be semi-fun to be around. Yeah, that's yikes. Anyways, there are many different definitions and interpretations of a diva. So of course on the one side we have the trope of the demanding, drama-loving diva. On the other side, as Deborah Nichols-Lee points out for BBC, mile-high heels, big hair, and an extraordinary stage presence are not enough on their own. It takes a long time to get to be a diva. Is she referring to her iconic status, having sold over 100 million records? Talking about Mariah Carey, I think. Or to her reputation for temper tantrums and outlandish demands. So while the word diva, oh my god. That was just, I don't even know what. So while diva used to be a word to describe a woman's out-of-this-world talent, her stage presence, her influence and charisma, co-editor of the Diva essay book, Dr. Kirsty Fairclough, concludes that the label is increasingly applied to subdue them. It has been used many times to undermine successful women, reinforcing stereotypes, demising their achievements, and suggesting that they're difficult or temperamental. Diva behavior in that regard may just be standing up for yourself to challenges that female stars face in a very male-dominated industry, or like world even. I'm focusing on like pop divas, but obviously you can apply that phenomenon to like out of this industry worlds. Fairclough also wonders, asserting your power, demanding fair treatment, navigating those pressures and scrutiny, isn't it just that? Rather than diva behavior. Now that we've been introduced to the world of the diva, obviously I want to name some more popular examples throughout the decades, seeing as this video focuses on pop divas, of which there are so many, so I'm probably not going to be able to mention all of them. If I'm missing one very important popular diva to you, what? Then don't comfort me. As always, comfort me. After the opera stage, the diva also negotiated her place in rock, pop, and country spaces. Kate Bailey writes in an essay for the Victoria and Albert Museum, who, by the way, also recently, or I think it might still be on, I'm not sure, had an exhibition on pop divas. What a coincidence, right? Anyway, she writes, Dolly Parton, who rose to fame as a singer and songwriter, is an astute businesswoman, while Barbra Streisand became the ultimate interdisciplinary artist, pushing boundaries on stage, in her recordings, and in film, both in front of and behind the camera. Both artists overcame obstacles to redefine perceptions of the diva, as popular music provided women with a new platform and new audiences. I want to highlight some other divas though, as we go through the centuries, although we are going to come back to Barbra Streisand as well. I'm going to start with the early icons. And for that, we're going to have to go back to like the 1950s to 1970s. And most notably, we're going to begin with the so-called Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. And the name was rightfully chosen. Vanity Fair says she was a singular presence in the world of R&B and pop. Everyone who came after her, from Whitney Houston to Adele to Beyonce, owes something to Aretha Franklin. For her to so outrightly demand R-E-S-P-E-C-T, which, by the way, is a cover. Did you know that? Like, it's not originally her song. That shocked me. For her to just do so, I mean, for us audience members, it seemed like a just thing to do. It inspired generations after. She expressed her strength, her demands, and the confidence of a woman who knows what she wants and what she deserves, and what she has the right to ask for as well. And up until that point, this had not been done very often by female singers. And on top of all that, she obviously possessed something that the biggest divas of the time had to have. An insane vocal talent with a voice that still remains unmatched, some might argue. Rolling Stones, for instance, crowned her as the greatest singer of all time twice. Apart from her talent and critical acclaim, her reputation as a diva only grew, as she rarely did interviews and she wouldn't perform in a room or concert hall that had air conditioning to protect her voice. She was rumored to be difficult, In a world where female musicians were regularly financially ripped off in the 1960s and 70s, she knew her self-worth and was reportedly tough about money. But Aretha Franklin was even more than just difficult and the voice. She often used her voice not just to sing, but to advance feminism and social activism. She really used her platform for what she believed in. Robinson continues for Vanity Fair, and I guess that's the sentiment in general, that she could do or say anything she wanted because she was Aretha Franklin after all. In the same vein, I want to mention Diana Ross, the blueprint for modern-day pop divas in the eyes of many. After leaving the Supremes and establishing herself as a leading solo artist, she remains one of the greatest women in soul history. New York Post calls her ever the epitome of beauty, style, and grace. In 1993, Oprah Winfrey said about her in the Supremes, "I had never seen black women on television or anywhere for that matter who conveyed such glamour and such grace." According to musician and songwriter Nile Rodgers, her song "I'm Coming Out" was designed to be the perfect concert opener with which Diana Ross could make a regal entrance as black royalty for the rest of her life. He explained to her, "Diana, this is gonna be your coming out song. We think of you as our black queen." But with triumphant success, The Guardian says, she created an infamous reputation as one of pop's biggest soul divas, with tales of everything from onstage tantrums to outlandish writer requests. Accordingly, the celebration of the pop diva slowed down as by the new millennium, the term diva has become widely used to describe extremely powerful singers with attitude from a variety of genres. So instead of focusing on their talent, the media often chose to dwell on the diva's behavior and to portray their careers and creativity in a negative light, thus reinforcing diva cliches. Kate Bailey writes, "Journalists describe global megastars such as Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, and Madonna as out of control, scary, or outrageous, rather than focusing on their artistry and exceptional talent. As a result, the modern diva must constantly challenge public perceptions and find new ways to own the term." Well, she's already been mentioned, so we might as well talk about her. Probably my favorite pop diva of all time thus far. The vocal powerhouse that was Whitney Houston, who rose to fame during the first years of MTV, which obviously became very essential when promoting pop music. She herself said it was very hard for her to even get on MTV, and obviously there's a whole story behind that. But in short, I do remember the hassle of introducing black artists to MTV because, let's face it, it was solely for white artists at that point, she said in 2001. She was presented as a pristine diva, in ball gowns, with a voice that was precise yet powerful, very much church yet tightly controlled for pop appeal. I mean, indeed, in her early days, you would only see her as this grand, regal woman, not to say diva, in beautiful gowns with the grandest voice. Not that I would remember because I wasn't born at the time she released her first songs and videos. But I remember catching up on all the videos and essence of Whitney Houston that I had missed out on because I hadn't been born yet. Not gonna lie, I had heard a couple of songs here and there and had appreciated her vocals and her musical talent, obviously. And my sister, for example, used to be the biggest The Bodyguard fan, and which I have yet to watch still. But I only really started falling in love with her singing Greatest Love of All on SingStar. I literally sang it time and time again. And honestly, at some point, I mastered that song down to the what felt like 48-second long high note at the end. I'll spare you my rendition of it now because back then my voice was obviously way higher and could hit those notes. And yeah, not gonna lie, my TV was very impressed. The rest of my family probably wasn't, but who's asking them if SingStar is calling me a superstar? Like, Copyright, hello, stop. Like I can't even play the full note because YouTube would probably flag this video if I did. Anyway, Whitney Houston will forever be one of my favorite voices in music, and she will most definitely remain my favorite voice of the older generation divas. But guys, it's time! When we think of divas nowadays, I'm sure one of the first names that will pop up is Mariah Carey, if it's not the first name that we mention.
And it's overhead lighting, what don't we do?
Apart from singing everyone's favorite Christmas song, and don't be a hater now. She's not only known for her multiple #1 albums or singles or Grammy wins even, but mainly for her incredible vocal range and her whistle register, of course, which she made sure to show everyone. What I find particularly intriguing about Mariah Carey is that she herself is so aware of her diva status, which makes clear that while for many being a diva or being called a diva is a character flaw, for her it's almost something positive or even something to celebrate. She sees it as an acknowledgement of her talent and her unique stardom and for working hard for it. At the same time, others might mean her more diva-like behavior as criticism for example, her backstage behavior or demands and how they talk about others.
I don't know.
Die kenne ich nicht.
I still don't know her.
This becomes very obvious also in the book Divas, in which they recount how the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, had called Mariah Carey a diva, to which she then replied that Meghan had a lot of her own diva moments. And apparently Meghan recounts, and I quote, "I started to sweat a little bit. I started screaming in my chair in this quiet revolt. Why would she say that? My mind was spinning with what nonsense had she read or clicked on that made her think that about me." Okay, so clearly Mariah Carey thinks of the word as positive or neutral, while Meghan Markle thinks it's pejorative. In 2020, she told The Guardian, "I deserve to be high maintenance at this point. That may sound arrogant, but I hope you frame it within the context of coming from nothing. If I can't be high maintenance after working my ass off my entire life, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize we all had to be low maintenance." And I think nowadays we, and even die-hard fans, associate that kind of behavior with Mariah Carey, and we love her for it. A mixed race woman making insane demands because of her insane talent that she worked insanely hard for, because she knows her place. Like, she knows what she wants and what she needs.
I still define the word diva the way it is in the dictionary. I mean, first one is a successful singer, usually a soprano, typically in the opera field. The second definition is like a difficult woman. And so I always thought that was silly, especially when everybody started talking about diva this, diva that, whatever. You know, it's like, well, are they trying to say it in a bad way or in a good way? But so many people that I know that are called divas all the time, don't take offense to it. Because if someone's calling you a diva and they're meaning it like, oh, you're being a diva, you're being difficult, then you can snap back at them like, I'm not being a diva, what are you talking about? But in general, if someone's like, the diva, so-and-so, who cares? Why is it a big deal? Just take it and be on your merry way.
If nothing else, Mariah is a shining example of women asking for what they want, being paid what they deserve, and speaking up if they have something to contribute. Women don't have to do what everyone wants them to, writes Sedelia Bowen for Refinery29. Now, a different definition. There's positive and negative definitions, but one of the divas had a new definition on hand, because a diva is just the female version of a hustler. As mentioned, the word diva has been through many shifts. Without even knowing when it happened, the term diva has almost come around full circle and is gradually taking on an almost positive meaning of empowerment, assertiveness, and control. Diva is just the female version of a hustler. The word has been reclaimed and almost given a positive depiction. It's powerful in a good way. This reclamation might be seen as one of the turning points in the perception of the diva. It's not self-criticism, but self celebration. Scholars often describe this reclamation of the term as a newfound fierceness. And in this context, we obviously want to reference Beyonce's 2008 album, I Am Sasha Fierce. And most notably the two songs If I Were a Boy and Single Ladies that were also pointed out in the Divas book. Away from the degrading meaning of diva, the former song, If I Were a Boy, imagines relationship difficulties from the privileged male perspective, a role switch that both highlights power dynamics, disparities between genders, and recalls the mid-1990s moment in which some women were understood to unapologetically adopt male behavioral traits. Single Ladies celebrates a newfound freedom post-relationship while condemning the ex for the failure to commit, cause if you like it then you should have put a ring on it. In this sense, fierceness means taking back your independence and is both empowering and a sign of progress. It may also act as revenge and teach a lesson to those who are affected by it. Fierceness does not seem to be anger, rather it seems to be an absolute certainty and self-belief, along with a hair-trigger rapidity in dismissing those who do not support such hard-earned emancipation. Those are very big words just to say that divas are confident and reject anyone who compromise their hard-earned freedom. What's interesting about Beyonce is that all we know about her is what she herself chooses to share. This may sound obvious to you, but she is such a private person, and that is also cemented in her music. For example, her being celebrated as the queen of the surprise drop. The release of Beyonce's Lemonade album in 2016 revolutionized the contemporary pop landscape, really. Kate Bailey describes Lemonade as a tribute to independence, Black history, her own Southern heritage, and a reflection on the current political and social climate, as seen through the lens of an African-American woman. Beyonce then went on to channel the spirit of Sasha Fierce for her 2018 Coachella Festival performance, which, you know, might have been the ultimate expression of a diva performance and demonstration of creativity, energy, power, and also exuberance, really. But since we're speaking about fears, we cannot forget about Lady Gaga, especially considering they also have an iconic song together, marking their pop diva status. Or, you know, this user on YouTube put it even better. The first time I saw, heard Telephone, I died and went straight to heaven. God sent me back to hear more Lady Gaga and the Queen Bee. I hope they collab again and again. Thanks for the upload. Oh, they did collab again, right? On Videophone, no? The name Lady Gaga stands for so much, but for many of her fans, it stands for liberation, performance art, freedom, creativity, being yourself unapologetically, and also supporting others. Here's what she appreciated about working with Beyonce, for example.
She is a real good person, Beyonce. I mean, I would say she is my favorite contemporary person in pop music. She is my favorite. She is a lovely, lovely person, and she is so kind, and I don't know how anyone could ever say one bad thing about her, to be honest.
And although many people and fans and haters and stans do it, Lady Gaga says,
I think that females tend to compete with each other. It's kind of stupid and ridiculous.
I'm gonna be really honest here. I kind of missed the Lady Gaga train. Even when she first got popular, I remember my fans, by that I mean my friends, being obsessed with her. But at that time, I was so deep in my Rihanna world that I kind of hated anyone who could threaten Rihanna's triumph and success. Not hate it, but they were just of no interest to me. And I know that I wasn't alone in this, because unlike Lady Gaga, I and so many others really would pit famous pop divas against each other, as if we can't have multiple women at the top. I'm saying all of this because now looking back, I can really appreciate everything that she's done and how groundbreaking really the beginning of her career was. Apparently, and you little monsters will correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you're very loyal. Apparently her career really was inspired by her ex-boyfriend and her wanting him to have to be confronted with her songs everywhere because they would play everywhere. And that's what she wanted. Either way, it clearly worked because she had some massive hits with Bad Romance, Poker Face, Paparazzi, Just Dance, and most recently, Shallow. My favorite song is Alejandro. I'm not sure how popular that song was. Especially during her early days, she just seemed so unapologetic and radical in her approach to fame and the music industry in general. And that marked kind of a new form of what a diva is. That at the time, I feel like was only matched by Rihanna's nonchalant or almost I don't give a fuck kind of attitude. You know, I've chosen not to focus on Rihanna in this video because, I mean, we all know she is a diva, one of the biggest pop divas of our time. Gaga's early images often became the topic of debate. Controversial comments about her extravagant style and persona that still never made her afraid to take risks or even let anyone tell her how to be and who to be, because what? Baby, we were born this way. Looking back at these very influential pop divas, their cultural impact is not lost on me either. Their constant battle against, or race really, against their reputation and rumors that spread, only to come out at the top, not only influences notions of femininity and empowerment, but also it influenced other minorities. Aretha Franklin was one of the divas advocating for feminism and social activism, like I said, not only but also in her songs. While rarely overtly political, Franklin understood the power of a platform and used her voice for more than just belting out songs and entertaining audiences. She was a strong advocate for the Black community, Black women in particular. She employed her feminist sensibilities in a manner that produced real, concrete results. Unlike some artists of color who try to walk a middle line in an effort to not offend white sensibilities, she comfortably luxuriated in her authentic blackness in both her music and activism. Elwood Watson writes for the Washington Post, and again, her R.E.S.P.C.T. is an example of that. He continues that Franklin's songs were a testament to the struggles of Black women and as such deeply political. This is just one example, but I now do want to shift the focus to divas that advocated heavily or that still advocate heavily for the queer community and LGBTQIA plus issues. In 2018, contenders in the reality TV show RuPaul's Drag Race competed to impersonate divas from Diana Ross to Cher. They're being referenced time and time again throughout the series. The diva concept can be playful and entertaining as well as a symbol of empowerment, liberation, and strength for women, and also for a variety of marginalized or ostracized groups. The duality of many divas, their struggles and expressive femininity alongside their powerful sense of self, is often admired by the LGBTQIA plus community. To be fair, it's also no surprise to me that drag queens are often inspired by especially older generation pop divas because oftentimes they're so overly feminine with bedazzled gowns, false lashes, fur coats, and so on, which I don't mean to say that you know, divas have to look like that, but they used to. And also, I don't mean to say that all drag queens heavily dive into their femininity, sometimes even play with this, but many of them are inspired by this look. And the inspiration started with a shift around the 1970s. In the book Divas, again, the editors write that the glamour that had then been reconceptualized as a matter of individual empowerment and self-determination was being reworked and transformed in trans cultures. So the diva brought or renewed exceptional senses of superstardom, of glamour, of occasion, of live performance, of being fabulous, of emotional empathy, and of a toughness born of struggle. That is, after the Stonewall riots of 1969 and on the goals of individual empowerment associated with third wave feminism, of being able and more than willing to answer back. Nowadays, it can also be seen on social media in calling out behaviors that just isn't okay, for example. And such proactive toughness and the desire to assert a position also realigns with the concept of fierceness. Nowadays, more so than ever, I think, divas are willing to stop the party in order to call attention to microaggressions, to structural oppressions or gaslighting, etc. And this is the fierceness that I was talking about in regards to Beyonce or Sasha. Fierce. Ahaha. In general, this narrative of struggle and survival of the diva is one that has strongly resonated with the LGBTQIA+ communities, who have formed an important part of the fan base of numerous divas, of course. We also can't forget that, such as Judy Garland, Barbara Streisand, and Madonna. BBC points out songs such as Gloria Gaynor's I Am What I Am, and Lady Gaga's Born This Way that have become LGBTQIA+ anthems. Divas are symbols of empowerment, self-acceptance, and celebration of individuality and challenging societal norms, and as such play an integral part in the queer culture. I would also like to highlight the way in which pop divas create community, especially online, because the people who support the same divas feel connected, sometimes even connected in hating another pop diva in stan wars on Twitter, for example. And all of this is strengthened by the fact that pop divas, so many pop divas, were and are so loud in their support of the queer community. Already back in 1991, Dolly Parton released the song Family. The lyrics are a little bit questionable nowadays, but at the time they were deemed very progressive, of course. Some are preachers, some are gay. Some are addicts, drunks, and strays, but not a one is turned away when it's family. She also confirmed that she once joined a Dolly Parton drag contest and lost. We also know that Cher has always been a very outspoken person when it comes to LGBTQIA+ issues.
If someone said to you, you couldn't be heterosexual anymore, you would not be able to accomplish it, you know?
Right.
Yeah. You are who you are. How can we persecute people for being who they are?
We have Rihanna with her gender
Appropriations and the pronouns, everyone is included.
This was a joke. But when we talk about gay diva icons, we have to mention Madonna.
Part of the phrase, let's go, does everybody not understand?
Who's been recognized as the pioneering ally by different media outlets and just in general. She was one of the first artists to speak out during the AIDS crisis, and through backlash and criticism, of course, at the time, she doubled down.
People say, oh, she sleeps with women. I don't bother to deny it because I don't think it matters. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So I'm not going to go around going, oh, God, that's not true. That's not true. So, I mean, I don't think it's relevant. I think that gays need to have more role models, people who are in powerful positions coming out and saying, I'm gay. I think that would be very helpful.
I could probably go ahead and write a full-on article about just her and her support of the queer community, but let's leave it at that and celebrate her for that, and also mention Chappell Rowan, which may be the reason you even clicked on this video, a new pop diva who now considers herself a drag queen herself. She's an openly queer lesbian artist who's also been very, very vocal about her support of especially the drag scene since her rise to fame, really, which granted has been relatively recent.
I'm your favorite artist.
That was a reference to Sasha Colby. And she says, there's gay people here.
Yes, there are gay people here.
Sasha Colby said,
I am your favorite drag queen's favorite drag queen.
and I was like, it just hit me through the heart. And so I was like, I hope Sasha Colby one day watches me, and that's why I said it.
She also frequently recruits local drag queens to perform at her shows. And about the changing culture, she says in an interview with LA Times that while at times she's still afraid to kiss her girlfriend in public, it's almost like the gays right now have the undertones of punk. We have no problem making art that's almost obnoxiously gay. I think of Kehlani when she says that. While Chappell Rowan notices a change in how to be gay, similarly, there is yet another change in the diva-dom, in being a diva. I don't think it's only because the divas get younger and we have a lot of Gen Z divas rising nowadays who are a little bit more unapologetic than others, maybe. But also because the media landscape has changed so much in recent years, especially with social media, of course. While older divas promoted their music on TV, on the radio, in TV interviews or whatnot, newer divas are often left on their own to promote their music on social media. Or to be fair, often also on other people's or businesses' YouTube accounts. And interestingly, that way they just seem more relatable because a fun, quirky interview or challenge that the fans can watch and even rewatch on YouTube makes them seem way closer, realer even, and just in general more personal. We get to know them a little bit better than just in a 4-minute live interview on TV. Like, I'm currently reading JoJo's memoir, for example, and I hope that most of you are old enough to know that I'm not talking about JoJo Siwa, but the original. Get out right now, JoJo. Anyway, she was talking about her first music videos appearing on MTV, or the time that happened, and that made me realize, does anyone still watch MTV just to watch music videos? Do they even show music videos anymore? Obviously, now we have so many other platforms where we can just watch and rewatch them that we don't need to see them on TV. And also we can pick and choose which ones to watch, which obviously on MTV we weren't able to. Their engagement on social media is described as a more subtle aesthetic blend of person and persona. The newer divas have more of a homely authenticity, a realness, and an intimacy with fans.
I get asked every single day about my hair routine, and I will show you how I do it.
Hello, so I'm gonna be doing a get ready with me. I'm very tired, guys.
Who are you?
My name is Renee. I'm 5'8", blonde lesbian, massive rack, really small waist.
Another phenomenon that comes with social media is that the word diva has taken on an even more positive meaning. Users often specifically ask for divas to have a comeback. Although there also still seems to be a fine line between pop artists being divas and just outright rudeness, which is then called out accordingly. I've come across many comment sections of many TikToks, for example, that celebrate the diva behavior. This is also easily exemplified with the "who is this diva" trend. Who is this diva with a purple heart? Even if I'm not sure whether or not you can really call it a trend. It's basically just people commenting, "who is this diva?" purple heart emoji under any TikTok that fits the diva description, no matter what gender,
Appropriation,
species. Like, I have seen it under TikToks of dogs or fish. And no matter what age, etc. One user describes the meaning as follows: when we're dropping this catchphrase on TikTok videos of people showing off their fits, someone winning a debate, or simply being iconic, we're basically saying that they're excelling or have an appealing style about them. Hence why we're so invested in knowing who they are. Apparently this trend originated from Donatella Versace, commenting under Bella Hadid's Instagram post about Palestine, which was then taken to Twitter and has now found its way to TikTok, as it usually goes. Usually it's always on Twitter first. This comment was just like so out of touch with reality and out of touch with the context of it all that makes her a diva, I guess. I don't even know. Although this is a very obvious reclamation of the word diva, it is not lost on me that many people still see it as an insult, therefore don't even understand the trend, because to them being a diva is a bad thing still, which brings me to the double standard of being a diva.
Divas were opera singers, first of all.
Oh, okay.
And how come they never call men divas?
Barbra Streisand, in this interview with Jimmy Fallon, who, by the way, should let his guests talk as well when interviewing them, I'm just saying. She says she doesn't want to be called a diva. To speak more about the diva stereotype, again, the word itself means goddess, literally, but for every empowering interpretation, a superstar, a queen, an idol, there are many, many disempowering ones. Difficult, self-important, demanding. Jimmy Fallon actually describes this best, because as a diva, He expected her to be unkind to the crew, to be late, to miss the rehearsal, etc.
You're nice to everybody. What have you done with Barbra Streisand?
But I also find it funny how she kept the myth alive of only ever showing the left side of her face on camera, because that is a known fact about her, and therefore swapped seats with Jimmy Fallon, and I thought that was really funny. Personally, I do understand why Barbra Streisand doesn't like the idea of the diva. She also says she's not an opera singer, but it's also irritating for a successful woman to be given that label that seems to automatically brand her as a troublemaker whenever she gets super successful. And especially when women have often been barred from many positions of power. Really, you have to cause a bit of disruption in order for something to change, right? And while men in similar positions are called powerful and successful, women are merely called divas. And that's just a double standard that she doesn't want to stand by, and I don't think anyone should. The Welsh National Opera deduces in their article, it is no surprise that words that originally highlighted women of talent and success mutated into an unflattering and disparaging description with its roots in sexism. Female politicians or entertainers are patronized and criticized for being bossy and difficult divas rather than just ambitious and assertive like their male counterparts. It might prove tricky to reclaim the word, given that it is often used synonymous to readiness for so many people who hate a celebrity that isn't gracious or thankful all the time. Women especially have to recognize even more often than men how thankful and how privileged they are in order not to come across as entitled, which ultimately of course leads us back to misogyny in the entertainment industry and real life. Of course, not that the entertainment industry isn't real life, but you know what I mean. This, of course, made many women in the industry afraid to even speak up for themselves. Even if the trend now finally goes back to women sticking up for themselves more, like with newer generation pop divas, for example, Chappell Rowan. So let's just go back to their original meanings in praise of women of sheer talent, star presence, ability, and success in their chosen field, of course. Which brings me to another article in The Guardian from last month, actually, in which writer Jeffrey Ingold questions whether the diva is leaving the building after Adele stated that she would go on a hiatus after her residency. He continues to recall a time in which she just couldn't escape the powerhouse vocals of legendary divas and on songs that were impossible to sing along to, really, but we all did anyway. In this day and age, this kind of a diva just is not having her moment. That is not to say that we don't have many contenders. Tori Kelly, Demi Lovato, Jasmine Sullivan, Renee Rapp, Ariana Grande maybe, or even JoJo as well, just to name a few. They all have the vocals, they all have the voice, but only a few of them have even released the song showcasing their vocals to a similar extent to what the older generation divas would do all the time. I assume it's just because the demand isn't there right now. The voice is no longer the pop diva's main selling point. We just had one of the biggest summers of pop girls of maybe all time, or in a long time at least. But it also proved that the modern pop diva looks and sounds very, very different. Charli XCX or Billie Eilish may not be your prototypical divas in the same way that Madonna and Lady Gaga also weren't in their time. But by its expanded definition, Billie Eilish especially is one of this generation's most influential artists. And therefore, she is in peak diva territory, really.
And yet people are like, oh, they're being a diva. And I'm like, that's the wrong use.
Yeah, I'm like, I hope so. I truly hope they are, because that means they've got an opinion and a drive and artistic integrity. They've got something to say. It means it's funny because you bring that up. I stopped doing like interviews for a really long time because I felt like whenever I would get into a position where somebody would try to say something for clickbait or twist my words or blah, 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 like I would defend myself. And then people would be like, oh, she's a diva.
Ariana's vocals definitely give diva. She also continually speaks out against sexism and the maltreatment of women, especially in the industry, or in her industry. In that interview with Zane Lowe, she says, I think that's how you pronounce his name. If I have an opinion artistically, or if I'm directing something, or I have something to say regarding a choice that's being made with my career, it's always manipulated and turned into this negative thing, and I don't see that with men. She added, I'm tired of seeing women silenced by it. So in a way, these newer generation divas are actively trying to change the diva archetype. All of this leads us to the new diva behavior, also people's response to it. Here's a clip of South African singer Tyla accepting the award for Best Afrobeats at the VMAs this year.
You guys know me and holding awards. I'm not strong enough. Use this. Are you able to offer me?
Y'all make everything weird. I was not asking my girl Hallie, we just girls. Exactly. With a heart emoji adding, love you babes, congrats.
It only took her saying that the award was too heavy for her to carry and her handing it back to Lil Nas X to carry for people to call out her diva behavior. And most disappointingly, is that even a word? If you pay attention to her speech, she actually makes really important remarks on the tokenization and the generalization of music beyond the US and UK borders, saying that there's a tendency to group all African artists under Afrobeats, even though she considers herself an Amapiano artist. Baby, this is what you came for. In these clips, Chappell Rowan demanded an apology from a photographer on the red carpet of the premiere of Olivia Rodrigo's Guts World Tour documentary, claiming that they had yelled at her. I'm not sure if she referenced this moment because a couple of weeks earlier, another red carpet moment had went viral. So either she confused the awards or there had been another incident at the Grammys parties that I don't know about. But roll the clip. Of course, the internet had strong opinions about this. While many celebrated her for standing up for herself and demanding respect, confronting the photographer, others dismissed the situation because it was yet another example of her dramatic behavior. Get over it, people would comment, like they get to decide what affects her and what does not. This is especially concerning considering it comes from an artist who's been very vocal about her struggles with the fame, especially in the last couple of weeks. She even got the nickname Chappell Moan for her public outbursts. Or for example, for claiming she doesn't want to win any more awards because it's too stressful, or for choosing when and when not to take photos with her fans, or demanding privacy and hating on stalker-ish behavior.
I don't want whatever the fuck you think you're supposed to be entitled to whenever you see a celebrity. I don't give a fuck if you think it's selfish of me to say no for a photo or for your time or for a hug. That's not normal. That's weird. It's weird how people think that you know a person just because you see them online or you listen to the art they make. That's fucking weird. I'm allowed to say no to creepy behavior.
She's definitely one of the biggest pop stars in the States right now, and we cannot forget how quickly she rose to fame. In just, I think, a year, really. And think about what that can do with your mental. So after canceling a couple of appearances, she released a statement saying, I feel pressured to prioritize a lot of things right now, and I need a few days to prioritize my health. So I'm not sure if bashing her for standing her ground is the right thing to do when she's already struggling with the spotlight. And also because we've seen time and time again what this pressure can do to many famous people, sadly, and even to many pop divas. And yet this exemplifies the debate of whether or not pop stars are allowed these moments of sharing their struggles with fame, sharing their struggles with the spotlight, because their privileged position may make them look ungrateful. And this is a constant debate. I think what we see is yet another diva. And I mean diva in the best sense, because to me, diva is a good thing. Being maltreated and bashed for sticking up for herself. And most importantly, setting her boundaries. Could she have worded things more nicely? Maybe. Could she have just swallowed it and moved on? Maybe. But also, what would that teach the photographer? To just keep doing that, or to keep doing that to other females in the industry? Exactly. Moreover, she also wasn't really being disrespectful in any way. So why not assert herself with power behind it? It just seems to me that the Gen Z divas are not for the faint-hearted paparazzi or media people in general. And I'm sure the PR persons behind them are always a little bit scared whenever it comes to like interviews or live public appearances, really. But that's exactly what's fun about them, no? This is why I love watching Renee rap interviews, for example, because she's so nonchalant and real and snarky in the best way and like so in your face. Really a true pop diva in my opinion.
You know, had a little ass and a small waist. What can I say? It's so hard to exist like that and be me. But my mom would always make me sing Bootylicious to myself whenever I would get like a little insecure about it. And that's the closest I ever got to religion.
Alrighty, and that brings me to the end of this video. One thing that all the divas have in common across positive, neutral, or pejorative understandings of the word diva, they are a singular and standout presence in the industry. They're worthy of debate, impressively tough, and unavoidably fierce, of course. Apart from that, their impact is undeniable, shaping future generations, inspiring others, and standing up for great causes. Not all of them, of course, but many, many do. And I don't know about you, but I think we can never get enough of these diverse voices, especially nowadays. Now, without pitting any divas against each other, who's your favorite diva?
I don't care about your opinion if your opinion is wrong. I don't care.
I'd love to know that, and also what you think of the word diva and what you connect with it and just how you feel about it. If someone called you a diva, how would you take it? And what do you think of diva behavior in general? For example, Chappell Rowan's. Like, what's your stance on it? As always,
I don't care.
I love hearing your voice, even if I can't react to each and every one of them. I also love if you guys have discussions in the comment section. That said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Y entonces nos vemos la próxima vez. Y bye.